The Hungarian delegation in Paris tried to persuade the Allies not to sign the peace treaty that would have led to the recognition of the union between Transylvania with Romania. To defend Hungary's cause, the delegation chief from Budapest, Count Albert Apony, sent many memos to the great powers. The Hungarian part attempted to inculcate the idea that Romanians are an inferior race, incapable to govern themselves and difficult to be governed. Also, the historic and political demonstrations and arguments made in the official letters submitted to the Paris Conference Committee reveal the Hungarian diplomats' racist views. They distort the history of the Romanians from Transylvania by putting forth Rossler's theory, according to which the Romanians migrated from the Balkans in the 14th, 15th centuries and behaved as a disruptive element for the Hungarian order and required a lot of effort to be civilized. In their letters, the Hungarians also claim there are major differences between the Romanians who live within the Carpathian Arch and those who live outside it, the former being superior as a result of their contact with Hungarians. Slandering Romanians in Paris was unsuccessful, but the statements found in the diplomatic Hungarian notes from 1920 about the inferiority of the Romanian race disclose an extremist political view. In various paragraphs, the Hungarian officials emphasize their superiority to the Romanians. Intellectually and economically, Transylvania is 100 years ahead of Romania. For that reason, the union with Romania will prevent its development and lead to great disorder. The diplomats from Budapest sought to demonstrate that the Romanians from Transylvania are an inferior class, asserting that the majority of the Romanians are peasants, while Hungarians, having many educated people whose social life is more advanced, are more mobile than this mass of peasants. The social life of the Hungarians and Germans from Transylvania is more diverse. They have a large percentage of qualified workers, unlike the Romanians who are mostly illiterate. Moreover, the alleged inferiority of Romanians is thought to be inescapable. The superiority of the Hungarians and Germans from Transylvania is neither the result of the protection granted to them by the Hungarian state, nor of an oppressive system based on violence. That is only a presupposition denied by statistics, which demonstrate that the inferiority of the Romanian race manifests itself in a striking manner whenever there is room for private initiative. The inferiority of the Romanians from Transylvania, far from being the result of oppression, resides in two distinct causes. First and foremost, the Romanian nation, being a young one and lacking traditions, discovered its national consciousness only in late 19th century. Its religion is Byzantine, the language of the religious service is Slavic, and in Transylvania, the Romanian Church owes its independence to the Hungarian Protestant princes and to the confessional unity which Romanians were not able to accomplish by themselves, but only through pressure coming from the outside. The confessional unity mentioned in the Hungarian memos is a reference to the Greek Catholic Church, which was created in an attempt to join the Orthodox faithful with the Church of Rome. The result is an institution which broke away from the Orthodox Church and accepted papal authority while retaining the Orthodox ritual, canon, and calendar. Its national literature is of recent origin, alleged the letters remitted by the Hungarian delegation to the great powers. The Romanians have never succeeded in bringing into light their racial uniqueness, nor have they left their imprint on the institutions of their countries. Neither the Middle Ages institutions nor the power of the ideas of the modern era had any influence upon their politics and civilization. The Crusades, the feudal system, the papacy, the Holy Roman Empire, the Renaissance and the Reform passed without influencing these people. Unlike the Romanians, the Hungarian nation was deeply involved in all these events, the Hungarian diplomats wrote. The memos also claim that the Romanians are simply unable to develop, as if they are condemned to remain an inferior race. The Romanians' backward civilization and lack of economic development must not surprise anyone. It is a certainty the fact that living in their own state, Romanians have not been able to catch up with their neighbors for a long time. However, the inferiority of the Romanians from Transylvania is related to their history in that region. The Romanians, not being indigenous, were never able to establish their own country. Instead, they slowly advanced in the area over the centuries. The Romanian element has behaved like the volcanic magma which blasts through the gaps in the earth's shell. The Romanians passed through the gaps that have appeared in the national and economic edifice built by Hungarians and Germans in Transylvania. And just as volcanic magma never rises to the surface but goes deeper into the ground, so have the Romanians from Transylvania remained at the bottom of the social ladder. However, the Hungarian diplomats admit at a certain point that the Romanian race is capable to learn from Hungarians. The Romanians from Transylvania who came here in the 14th, 15th centuries from the Balkans did not have laws of their own. Because of their intellectual and economic inferiority, their church provided them the only chance to become civilized. While all the old national and economic institutions are entirely Hungarian and German, Romanians began to build theirs 100 years ago only under the benign influence of the Hungarian and German intellectual and economic environment. That is the reason why in the last century the Romanians from Transylvania have surpassed their brethren who live outside this ethnic mix in their own countries, Wallachia and Moldavia. The Hungarian official letters twist historic facts in an attempt to credit the idea that Romanians came 400 years after the Hungarians' arrival in the area. They are described as semi-nomadic shepherds who needed coercive measures to be able to settle in an organized state. In the Carpathian area, the first mature state was founded in the 10th century by the Hungarians who settled here after they had occupied Transdanubia and the Hungarian plain. In the 14th, 15th centuries, following the Turkish invasion in the Balkans, immigration among Romanians from the south of the Danube increased considerably in Transylvania and eastern Hungary. The 1920 diplomatic letters denied the Daco-Roman continuity. The first who asserted that the Romanians are the descendants of the Roman people who remained in Dacia was Antonio Bonfini, who, having noticed the similarities between Italian and Romanian, claimed that the Romanians from Transylvania are the descendants of Emperor Trajan's legionnaires and colonialists. Bonfini's thesis was made known to the 18th century Europe through the writings of Topeltinus and Cantemir, and it became, with the help of extreme political circumstances, a scientific dogma. Moreover, Hungarians reject a Hungarian chronicler who mentions the Romanians. Anonymous, a nameless chronicler of King Bela, is the only one in the Middle Ages who finds Romanians in the old Dacia when the Hungarians arrived in their present country in the 9th century. However, critical analysis has demonstrated that it is impossible to consider anonymous work an authentic historical record. This work is the result of a patriotic imagination, and it does not give the true account of how Hungarians conquered the land. It is only a saga. Scientific critique has proved that the part that refers to Romanians was inserted in the chronicle at a later date. In Paris, the Hungarian diplomats claimed that Romanians have always been a disruptive element. The Romanian immigrants initially settled on uncultivated and uninhabited royal domains under the rule of their own knazis, who were the leaders of their migration. Their relations with the German and Hungarian farmers were just as bad as with the peoples in the Balkans. Most of them found it very difficult to adapt, while others could not adapt at all to the economic, social, and legal order of the Hungarian state. For that reason, the state authorities had to enforce many coercive laws, and they were punished on a regular basis. We can affirm that all historical data prove that in the Middle Ages, when they emerged as a people, everyone considered Romanians to be a disturbing element that never had any regard for individual property, social order, and legal institutions of the state. It is obvious that such an element could not have sufficient economic, political, and social influence to be a factor in the constitutional history of Transylvania among the other three legally recognized nations. It was very difficult for the authorities of Transylvania to accustom these people with morality, social order, and the institutions of the state, in a word, to turn these semi-nomadic shepherds into industrious farmers fit for civilization. A century has passed since the Paris Peace Conference, and the arguments presented by the Hungarian diplomats haven't changed.